we are going to be making a clay landscape. I love the ocean, so both of my examples ended up looking like the ocean. This one has mostly just the ocean with the sunset. This one has a sunset with the ocean and a sailboat. So I'm going to show you how to start with the shape of your whole clay piece. Then we're going to add some texture and we're going to draw out where we want our things to go, and then the next week we will add things on top. So the first thing you're going to do is you're going to set up your space. You're going to have a mat with your piece of clay on top. You want 2 dowel rods next to it. Your dowel rods are about the same size as your pinky, which is as thin as you ever want your clay to be, because if it's too thick, it won't dry properly and then it won't fire in the kiln well. So the first thing you're going to do is you're going to have your dowel rods on either side, your clay in the middle, and then you're going to roll it out so that it becomes as thin as your dowel rods. I like to stand when I do this. You don't have to stand, you can sit, but I feel like it's a little easier to stand. And you want to go all directions too. So I'm going to go up and down this way, and then I want to flip it around just a little so that it grows sideways as well. So what you're going to get to choose now is the type of shape that you want your clay landscape to be. This one I just made into an oval. This one's kind of a rectangle, but it's kind of a wavy rectangle. So you kind of get to choose. You can leave it as it is, or you can draw out the shape that you want. I'm just going to kind of make it a weird kind of shape. Draw it out first. That way, if you mess up on a part, you can always erase with your finger. If you go too deep with your cutting tool, you can't fix it as easy. So just draw it really lightly, and when you've got it the way that you want it, then you can push all the way down and you'll be able to feel your mat underneath, and you can cut out the piece. So this is cutting all the way through like that. We'll use this to build on top of it next week. You'll also want a little bit of water next to you, because when you cut anything out of clay, it leaves things kind of crumbly. So I've got these crumbly edges right here. I want to just kind of take my fingers, get them wet, and then just kind of rub my fingers along the edge so that it becomes nice and smooth. Anything that looks sharp now will be sharp when it comes out of the kiln, and we don't want our clay pieces to be sharp. So now what I want to do is I kind of want to draw out what I want on my landscape. A landscape is anything with a horizon line where the sky meets the ground. So it could be a city, you could have buildings, it could be a field with flowers or animals, it could be a seascape like this one where it's got the sky but its horizon line meets where the ocean is. So it kind of is up to you on what you do. I think for this one I'm going to do a field, so I still want my horizon line to be a little wavy. And then maybe I want some mountains back here. And then maybe here's my sun. So what I'm going to do now is use some texture plates to put texture in my sky, my mountains, and my ground. So for my ground, I might want it to look like there's pebbly rocks on the ground. So we've got 4 or 5 of these texture rollers like this that you can use to just roll in your clay just like this. We also have texture plates that are the plastic ones that you've recognized before, and then these rubber ones as well. This I think kind of looks like a swirly mountain, so I'm going to put it on top of my mountains right here. For these, you can put them on and then push them with your hands, but what I like to do is roll them with my rolling pin. Now, I don't want this in my sky, so I can just rub that away. Redraw my mountain lines. I think this looks like a really good sky, so I'm going to put it in where I think my sky should be. And redraw where I want my sun to go. Now that we're done with our textures, what we're going to add are some sculptural pieces on the top. So I might want to add some snow caps on top of my mountains, or maybe I want to add an actual sun instead of a drawn sun. Maybe I want to put a hammock right here, or a swing set, or something in my ground. So what you're gonna do is you're gonna sculpt something with your leftover clay. So I can take a piece of clay and manipulate it with my fingers, which just means make it, use it, squish it, roll it, flatten it, all kinds of stuff. So I'm gonna make this for my son right here. I'm gonna roll it up into a ball, flatten it out a little bit. If you attach a piece of clay to another piece of clay, I could just stick it, and because it's watery and squishy and sticky, it's gonna stick right now, but as clay starts to dry, it shrinks, so it'll pull apart. So what I would rather do is add what I like to call little scratch marks, and then attach my piece with some water. So this is called scratch and attach. And what happens when you scratch and attach is your clay pieces, instead of just sticking together like this, they have these little bitty scratch marks that stand up tall, so when they fit together like a lock. So that way, as it starts to shrink, they will actually grow stronger instead of growing apart. So I've got my scratch marks on here, and then where I'm gonna attach it, I wanna take a little bit of my water and just pat it on the top of each of those pieces, and then turn this over and stick it, and then wiggle it on there. You should see the water kind of seep out the bottom. So there's my sunshine. I also might want to add some sun rays. I could do little coils with that. Take a little piece of clay and roll it up into a snake like this. I could also flatten this piece out. You could use your rolling pin, you could also just use your hand. And because this is thick enough already, this piece that I'm doing right here doesn't matter if it's thick or thin, because it's going on top of a piece that's already thinned out. So I could draw some sun rays, like rectangles if I wanted to do that. Draw them out the way that you want them, and then cut them, just like we did with our background. If this tool is too big for scratching, you can always use your cutting tool as well to make little scratch marks wherever you want your pieces to go. I'm going to make a little triangle right here to put on top of my mountains to make it look like there's a snow-capped top. Just shape it into whatever shape you want it to be. Triangles, squares. I want to make it look like it's snowy, so I'm going to make it kind of like a zigzag on the bottom. And then a scratch. And attach. I decided I wanted a river to go right here, and I wanted to show you this last little tool that I have. This is actually you use this in the kitchen. It's a garlic press, but I like to put a piece of clay down inside of it to make long, stringy pieces of clay to use for any kind of long, stringy something that I would like to make. You could use this for jellyfish tentacles if you're making a jellyfish. You could use this for hair if you're doing a portrait of a person. So you pack it with clay, push it, and the pieces of clay come out this side right here. So I'm going to use these to make it look like river waves. Now, because these are so skinny, I don't need to scratch them, but I do need to scratch wherever they're going. So I'm going to scratch my whole river, add some water, and then stick my waves on here. It could also be a path. Maybe it's like a straw path or hay. So make sure you stick them on there real good, because these are so small and fragile, they will fall off and break unless they're attached well. When you're finished building, a good rule to follow is to add a little water to smooth down anything that looks sharp or messy, and to also use a tool or two to clean up any of the edges.